front line.
For sure. Now, another thing that we touched on with Stat as a Knicks fan, and this is gonna be a question we pose to you guys all year. Who is the team? We know Boston's there, right? But who's the team that worries you the most in the East? Now, for me, the logical answer for the Knicks was going to be Philly, right? You know, you've got the border wars, territorial, historical rivalry going on there. And then, by the way, they just brought in Paul George to go with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, brought Caleb Martin over there. Nice draft, couple other pieces. You know, when we looked at that, the first thing that we said when the deal was made, that it's a solid team. It's a team that could definitely win a championship, but their two most talented stars, arguably their two most talented stars, Embiid and Paul George, have an extensive injury history. Injury history for Paul George is what killed, well, along with Kawhi Leonard, is what killed the Clippers' title hopes. Philly has had a window that I think is still open with Embiid, who to me is the best big man in the league when he's on the floor. You know, he brings you so much, but every year you hear about another injury. So in Philly, you had in the game Paul George hyperextend his knee. He's questionable for opening night. Joel Embiid comes out and says that he's probably not going to play a back-to-back ever again in his career. If you're a Sixers fan, that's startling. Is it too early? And this is in the preseason now. Is it too early to hit the panic button in Philadelphia?
Yeah, yes, because it is preseason. Paul George hyperextended his knee, but that's something he'll definitely be back from, and not too complication. It's just painful, and then you gotta kind of wait for it to kind of go away. Maybe he missed the beginning of the season, but that is kind of what it is. I think this is why you signed Paul George. He kind of relieves some pressure off of everything falling on the maxi when Embiid is out. I think you have three stars, so if one of them misses, you have two. So I think as long as you can have two out of three stars, I wouldn't panic too much. Obviously, being a new team, where I do see some concerns is that you got to build that chemistry and be on the court together and get all that type of stuff to maybe win in this league. So that's going to be an issue. But as far as like making it through I think they'll make it through the regular season better than what they did last year. When Embiid went down last year, it was just Maxey trying to figure everything out himself. He has a year of that to grow on that and work on that. Now, plus he will have at least one of the other two with him to relieve some pressure off him too. So he should be better than he was last year handling those situations. Now seeing it and been through it. And then he also should have one of the two there to help him. So I think that will make them better than they were last year. I think there's a slight panic just to make sure everyone's healthy and you can get on the floor and build that chemistry.
The Embiid line is what's really startling to me, though, because hyperextension, like you're like, oh, it's Paul George. So when you see that, you're like, man, another injury. The Embiid one is the scary one. To hear him say that he's probably not gonna play back-to-back games ever in his career again, like it for you to not to be certain that that's not going to happen anymore, it seems like something serious is up, or it's serious enough where you have to throw that precaution in there.
Yeah, I think that is obviously concerning, but I think you just the way his career and injuries have worked out, uh, you kind of like seen it coming. Even if he was gonna play in back-to-backs, he wasn't probably gonna play in a lot of them. So like him coming out and saying I'll probably never play in some again is like it's startling because when you hear like never again, like you kind of still have a long career left, which means you're never gonna play in a back-to-back again. But if you look at it, even if he wasn't gonna play in back-to-backs again, it probably have wouldn't been a lot of them with just the way that the NBA goes nowadays with load management and things like that. He probably wasn't playing in a lot of them in the rest of his career anyway. So he kind of just got it on the table and said, "Hey, don't expect me in them."
I forgot to mention this, man. They got a guy Lester Quinones over there. He's a Philly guy now.
Yeah, shout out to him. I wonder if he's enjoying Philly. Sure he grabbed him a Philly cheesesteak or something. Let's
Don't
see
go to
how that.
Pats. If you're watching Les, don't go to Pats. It's commercial.
Let's see how it goes for him. Obviously, going to a new team, a new situation, you kind of got to earn your keep again. There's a lot of guards and stuff in front of him. Kyle Lowry's still on that bench. Jared McCain seems like he's been having a good time since they've drafted him summer
Not to
league.
cut you off, I heard a rumor that not a rumor. I think Nick Nurse said there's a possibility he could be playing in the G League, which was a
Uh,
little surprising to me. Consider that's your first round pick.
yeah and no because like, yeah and no. Like you kind of expected he'll play some time in the G League, not because maybe he said that too premature too. Because I feel like I've heard a lot of good things about him coming out of camp, but like it's just you have Kyle Lowry, you have Eric Gordon. It would have been real tough just looking at it on paper for him to kind of beat those guys out. Obviously, they're older. Maybe they're not going to play every game. They're going to rest. And obviously, Maxi's still in front of him. Kelly Oubre starting. So you just look at that guard depth. It's kind of like not that he's not good enough. We kind of just don't have the time for him. We're kind of in a win now mode. And when you're in a win now mode, you're kind of not playing those young guys. Kyle Lowry's always going to get those minutes over him. So it's kind of tough. But throughout a long season, I think there's times where he will get in. Kyle Lowry will either rest or maybe an injury or something happens between him and Eric Gordon. But again, it seems like spot minutes. So you would just say off the top of your head that we will keep him, we will probably send him to the G League a lot to keep him ready because there's probably going to be a time throughout the season when we know we're going to need him.
For sure, for sure. I think that the Lester Quinones signing to me is an underrated one. Watching Nick Nurse and his time in Toronto, like, Masai Ujiri's drafted well in Toronto, and then Nick Nurse comes in there. He start. It's a lot like what the Heat do, which we're about to get into as well. And just being able to get the best out of what you got, right? Like Maxi really took a turn after he got under Nick Nurse. The guys that we saw in Toronto really in that championship run were some guys that you liked, but when you go in and you see Pascal Siakam as a legitimate number two, that's not something you expect. And I think the talent's there with Les. I think that's something for whatever reason the Warriors, they got good production from him when they used them, but they didn't really go to him as much as some fans may have liked. That's kind of something I'm expecting to see from the Sixers with him, should he, make it onto that roster.
Yeah, kind of the same thing I was saying with Jared McCain. They're kind of in a win now mode, and there's a lot of veteran guards ahead of them. So I think they're gonna use their G League team a lot for those young guys and try to get them in spot minutes because they do have a veteran team, and you when you have that veteran team, you expect some of them old guys to not play every game, not play every night. So, and then obviously being older, maybe a little injuries. So you have those guys for those moments. There's going to be a game 42 against Detroit, maybe, where those old guys just might not play. It might not, or maybe an injury or something happened. So you need those young guys. You need them fresh, and I think that's where they are add value. So I think he's kind of in the same boat with Jared McCain. They're just on a veteran team that's trying to win now, and those young guys are going to add value just because it's a long season.